Are you ready? Did you light the candle? Okay, let's start the ritual. Welcome to Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I'm your host, Rachel. This is a space where truth gets its voice back because shame loses its power when we speak to it. Here, we don't skip the hard parts. We sit with them and we learn to hold ourselves inside them. This podcast is ritual in audio form, a way for us to bring intention and intuition back into our everyday. Let's dig into our roots and go deep. Lily, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here. For context, Lily and her business partner, friend, Franzi, reached out to me to do a private tea ceremony. And after we had completed that, they asked if I wanted to do tea ceremony and yoga at their retreat. And first of all, just meeting them was so special, and I knew instantly that we were going to get along. And doing my offers at their retreat was such a special experience to be in that energy on that land by the horses. It so powerful, so magical. So I definitely want to talk a little bit about what you're creating there and your connection. I mean, especially your connection with the horses and how all of that began. But before we get into all of that, the first question I start every podcast with is, what is one thing you wish people knew about you that you don't think many do?
That's not an easy question.
I know.
I think that I I know a lot, and I don't offer it a lot, especially in like group spaces. I'm a 1-3 in human design, so I'm like an investigator, and I tend to like have to feel like I have to know more and more and more before I feel like I know it enough. So I get into a lot of rabbit holes, but I do, and because of that, I know so much about so many things. But I also don't like, unless I'm prompted to. And then sometimes if I feel comfortable, I'd be like going off. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm a 5-1, so I also have that one line, and I very much get that. I very, very much get that. And I think the 1-3, that's such a unique experience because both of those lines are more internal and self-focused, not in a selfish way, but just in a very private, more internal world kind of way versus having a lot of externalization. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, especially with the 3 also, because like trial and error. And then, yeah, I just experienced a lot of like, oh, this didn't work. And so it's like going on and on and on. Yeah. So it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot that the 1-3 can get kind of stuck in this loop of trying and then going back into the research bubble and then trying. And I think it's so important to have levity and play in that as well, and to remind yourself that you're always ready. You always know what you're doing, and you always have the information you need to be exactly with where you're at. But I guess on that note, I'd love to hear a little bit about where some of this journey began. And I'm really going to leave it up to you with where you want to start that. I mean, that it can be very connected to more of your spiritual path and the horses, or more of a personal path. Like I'm open to whatever comes up for you in that.
Where to start? Yeah. We can start with the horses.
Okay.
That feels easy enough.
Also, I think I just want you to cover your mic.
Am I like blocking it?
Yeah.
Okay, should I put it here?
Just in case. Perfect.
My hair, I woke up this morning to like that, so the weather is becoming drier. Finally.
I know.
Yeah, so the horses. So my dad loves horses. And so while I was growing up, he was quite into it, and he would go riding lessons and hang out with them. And he would take us with him. And I guess out of the siblings like stuck with me, so it became a thing.
How many siblings do you have?
6.
Okay.
So I'm the third, and yeah, I connected to them right away. Like it wasn't, I just knew they'll be a part of my life. Um, and it was obviously a very traditional way. Like you go to the barn and you go riding, and the barn that was local to where I grew up in London. It's like these women sitting in the corner of the arena screaming at you. They didn't even know your name. They called you by the horse's name, and they told you you got to pick your hands up, put your feet down, like all this. So that's kind of the framework. But I always loved to hang around with them and stick around and just be with them. And I felt really safe being with the horses more so than I did with people. Um, it was like really a space where I was able to just breathe and like connect with myself and feel like I can be myself. Um, yeah, so that's where the connection started.
And how old were you when that began?
Um, Probably like 8 or 9.
And then how did that evolve? When did that transition become something? When did that relationship with the horses become something different?
Yeah, so um when I was kind of like deciding the trajectory of what I was going to do, it wasn't a question of horses would be a part of that. Um, and I moved around quite a bit. And when I left London, I studied, I was studying psychology and all different kind of therapeutic modalities. And then when I moved to Israel, I found a place that taught uh, equine therapy. And I took the training. Um, and it was also a very traditional framework. It's like, this is what you do, step 1, step 2, step 3. This is the presentation of the child or adult or teenager coming in, and this is what you do. But something already shifted there in like how I was relating when I got a job and started doing it. And I was like at 65 clients every single week. So I was like working like crazy. And so I got to work with a bunch of different horses and also so many different kinds of people. So I really got the experience that I needed in like what is happening. And I started to see so many incredible things that I didn't really have a framework for. But I was still studying psychology and like getting more interested in like what is happening here, because I would see all these amazing things happen in the sessions and I was like, what is going on? So that's where it like continued and evolved, and I obviously spent a lot of time with them. It was my whole life.
It really is so it's like, I was going to say amazing, but it doesn't feel like the right word. It's something that you can't quite put the words to, this connection between humans and horses and how your energies just combine and connect. And I also have felt connected to horses in and out throughout my entire life. I mean, I rode a tiny bit when I was younger and at sleepaway camp. But then we did some equine therapy when I was in treatment for an eating disorder, and we in that treatment center they brought us to do some equine therapy with horses, and I like loved it so much. And then also synchronistically, just through as I've deepened my own spiritual path, whenever I'm picking up intuitive messages or pulling tarot cards or getting readings, like there's always, or just tapping in for myself, and there's always something connected to horses. Like they always keep popping up. And when I picture myself like in my safe space, there's horses there. So they're just kind of floating around the ethers, and being on the land with them when I did the retreat and was able to meet them even just for that brief moment, it's like it's a sense of homecoming. And so it's and I do feel like different animals and energies connect with different people. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but there is definitely something really special about horse energy.
Yeah, and they're like really in your field. So I wonder what's there with them for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, their energy is, I think it meets people when they're ready, because more so than a dog or a cat or different. I don't know more about wild animals than energetically, but um, yeah, not everybody is ready always to mate with the horses because there's a very clear they tune you up. And so in the process of that, it's like, oh, where are you not in truth and alignment? And that can bring up a lot of stuff. And if you're not ready for it, then a lot of projection happens, a lot of reflection happens, and then there's no connection with the horse. And when the connection happens, it's like, oh, I've tuned myself enough to my truth, or even to the truth of like, I'm angry right now, or I'm grieving right now, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm not. It's when we come in and we're like, oh, we're great. And the horses are like, you're not great. I can feel that. And you're lying, which makes you unsafe. And because I'm a prey animal, I'm going to turn away from you. Versus if you're coming in and you're honest with yourself about how you are doing, how you're feeling, it really puts you into connection with your own self and your body. Then the horse is like, oh, okay. They know what's up. Like they're not carrying different energies that scare me. So they'll be willing to connect.
Yeah, horses definitely have this very boundaried energy, and they have a very strong, I think some people can, well, on the one hand, I think some people can think that they're very feminine and flowy, which they definitely are, but they have this strong presence. And I think that's why some people are so afraid of them, because you can't boss around a horse. Like it is, they stand firm.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, as you mentioned, they really bring the truth to the surface and require, if you are going to spend time with them or devote your path to them in the way that you have, they require you to stay in a certain kind of alignment with yourself. And so I'm curious how the horses have done that for you.
Wow, in like so many ways, that has also simultaneously destroyed me and my life, and also at the same time built it up into a more aligned. And they are constantly doing that. It's not something I can run away from. And when it gets hard, I have thoughts of like, oh, this is too much. I can't anymore. I just want to let it all go and run away because it gets really confronting. Yeah, I think the first horse that found me was Lady, and she immediately just like downloaded so much. I guess it was more like she put me on a more spiritual path. Um, she showed me that there's like so much more than what we see, and connected me a lot to like the angelic realms. And she opened up like all of my energy centers. Like just sitting with her and being with her, I was like, something's happening to me. So that was like the beginning. And she also was like a partner in my work for when I moved to the States. She was the first horse that I brought, and I started my practice with her. And she worked with so many people. When she first came to me, she was very activated, very wired, very fast. Um, and I think throughout our relationship and building trust, there was a lot of like down regulating that happened for her, that she was able to like be in her own self. And I was able to put like 2-year-olds on her. I did therapy, like therapeutic riding for like kids with disabilities with her. Like she was so calm. And she really taught me how to do what I do now, which is very deep work with the horses. Yeah, so she was like the first teacher that really changed my life.
And you said you brought her from Israel, so you had her?
No, I brought her here. I moved at that end of 2020, during COVID, and everything over there was shutting down really quick. Like it hit there at end of 2019. So things were already like very challenging there, and they shut the farm, and like things were going on. So I came here to the States, and it was a rough like beginning. Again, like having moved my life first from England and moving there, and then doing it again a few years later, and then landing here. Um, yeah, and I at first I was working at a different farm where I was like starting to receive therapeutic clients, but I was also teaching writing lessons at the same time. And then a bit after that, I bought Lady, had her at a different facility, and like built my private practice around that. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you find yourself here? Because I feel like upstate New York, that's not from England to Israel to upstate New York. I feel like could have been other choices, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's true. So the first move to Israel, was I needed to get out. That's the thing. And that's just the truth. And I didn't know anything different. As a Jewish girl, like in this big wide world who's 18, 19, that was what felt like a choice. Um, so that's where I went. And it was, I didn't know the language. I didn't really know anybody. So I really uh, did what I had to do to like scrape it by, and I had a wonderful time. I was in a relationship, and I was like doing the horses. I was like working really hard, and yeah, but COVID came and really like brought an energy with it that was like, this is not, yeah. And the relationship ended, and then my sister, who lives in New Jersey, called me up and said, now why don't you come help me out with my kid, and just come be here for a while. And then when I was here for a while, Israel shut the borders and I wasn't able to go back. So that was that. So I ended up staying, and then I met somebody who we got married pretty quickly, and so I was able to stay and I got my citizenship. But soon turned out to be a very horrific relationship that I was in until a year and a half ago. And yeah, so that was like, and then we lived in Rockland County, and then we moved up to Chester, and then after the divorce, it was like, where am I going? So I found Friendly's beautiful land and ended up here. But I don't know if this is where I'm staying, but for now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go down this route if you don't want to talk about it. So feel free to tell me. But in that relationship, when and how did you know that it was time to go?
Hmm. When my nervous system knew that it had a choice. And I think because of all the trauma that I was in, that was like going, I think a lot of the trauma vortex is like, I don't have a choice, or I can't.
Yeah.
That kind of energy. And most of the time it felt that way. It's like, I can't get out, or I can't do anything different. And when I did a lot of somatic therapy and was able to expand my capacity in my nervous system, there came a time where it was like, oh, I can. And so I think that was the moment.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you said that, because I think that that is such a important piece to emphasize, is that a lot of times all we need to do to realize that we can break free from these situations is regulate ourselves, is to create this different state in our bodies to be able to tap into a different energy within ourselves, to realize that we can do something different. We can take space. We can choose a new path for ourselves. And all it takes is that, I mean, all, not to say that it's easy, but to say that
It's possible.
it's possible. And it's that simplicity of these practices that at first feel insurmountable and crazy, but when distilled down, it's breath, it's slowing down. I'm curious if there's one practice or one moment um in your you said you did a lot of somatic work.
Yeah.
One moment in that process for you that really felt helpful.
On that point, like on the simplicity, in a way it is, but also for a traumatized nervous system who has been through a lot of trauma and is living way out of the window of tolerance of like a healthy nervous system that can like get activated and then come back. get activated and come back. For someone that's living in complete hyperarousal, which is like anxiety, like activated fight or flight, or complete hypoarousal, and they're completely depressed and shut down and frozen, it's actually really hard to like go and do one practice. So for me, it was like 2 years of consistent weekly somatic experiencing therapy, which is Peter Levine developed somatic experiencing, which is actually interestingly based on the animals, right? And how they survive, like how prey animals are not walking around traumatized when they're being constantly hunted in the wild. So it came from that. Yeah, and throughout that process, it's a very slow process. It's not like, oh, I wake up every day and meditate, right? Because sometimes I'm completely shut down and frozen, and there's nothing more I can do but read a book and do absolutely nothing and hardly even take care of myself, right? Or I'm completely activated and I'm like out of my mind, right? So it's very hard for like to choose a practice. Now it's something I can do. And I can, share more about that. But I think the slow process of like, okay, let's expand capacity. So every time I would go into a session with my somatic experiencing practitioner, I would receive more capacity in my nervous system to have more choice. So it was like a real deep nervous system healing restoration because my nervous system was very traumatized. It was like coming back to health.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really glad that you said. I think when I said simplicity, I more so meant like coming back to these states and these practices that are our nature.
Yes.
And rewiring them into our system so that they become our go-to versus these dysregulated states.
And now it feels simple for me.
Yes.
Right. Now it's like, oh, I'm feeling activated. Okay, it's time to go and dance. And it's time to go and like be with myself or go out and take a walk and all of these kind of practices. Now it's very simple because it's not so hard to re-traumatize yourself or to get re-traumatized, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that's why it's a constant practice for no matter what type of trauma you've been through, even if you're just existing in this dysregulated world, it's a constant practice to come back to the regulation, to come back to what keeps us grounded and connected. And we really have to stay devoted to that. I'm curious what that looks like for you now.
Yeah, it's like one of the biggest things I'm proud of myself for because like as a person, I don't want to do much. I'm like a double Leo. Like I used to be in like therapy. I would tell my therapist that I have this part that's just a lazy lion. I want to just lay out in the sun and roar at anything that is in my way and just do nothing. That's like my ultimate state of being. It's just being and not. So it was hard for me to develop this practice, but yeah, it started to take form just before the decision to leave my marriage when I was when I was starting to see what was happening. And I really became devoted to my meditation practice, to my morning pages, to my movement. And that hasn't changed. It's like, this is what I do every single day. I wake up, I feed the horses, I prepare cacao or tea, and then I'm not on my phone until I'm done. And it's morning pages, meditation, 5 minutes of doing nothing. And yeah, like devoting to that is very important to me.
Yeah, I'm very similar. And I think this speaks to a point you made before, but it takes time and it's a slow process to get there, and everyone's path is different and everyone's remedy is different. Everyone has to find their own unique mix of rituals and practices that will help them stay connected and help them feel regulated. And for some people, coming back to that simplicity is not going to be the meditation, is not going to be the morning pages, and that for them will always feel complex and challenging, And so it's really allowing each person to have their own path to themselves.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I know it wouldn't work for everybody. Some people just need to like go and dance it out every day or do something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you always consider yourself a spiritual person, or did that come in time?
I did. I did. I mean, so growing up, I was very quiet. I hardly spoke.
Mm.
So, like, my aunt told me a couple of years ago, like, I didn't know what your voice sounded like until you were like, 12.
Wow.
Like, so I was very quiet, um, probably a little selective mute. That didn't, that wasn't like a diagnosis or anything, but it felt that way. And I was very shut down. So I was in my own world a lot. I was traveling, I think, you know. I had my own worlds that I would explore. Um, it was never a shock to me, like, oh, you're a soul, not just a human. Like, so yeah, and I think my father nurtured that a lot too. Yeah, it wasn't ever a question per se.
I really want to touch on the voice aspect because
Mm.
that's something I've talked about a decent amount on the podcast personally, is finding my way back to my voice. But what what did that process look like for you? And was it intentional to refinding? Because that, I mean, I guess hearing that doesn't necessarily shock me, but in our limited interaction together so far, you speak beautifully and have that sense of self. So I'm curious what that was like for you.
Mm. It's still ongoing. Like I don't know yet because I haven't like I'm still on it or in it very heavily. Um, hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it was the lack of voice was coming from complete disassociation and like being a total space cadet my whole life and like living 5 feet out of my body, like being completely disconnected. So as I was like, post age 18, where I was like on my own and trying to figure it out, I think more pieces started to come back. Um, I still was very disconnected from my yes and my no and um, expressing my needs and what I wanted or what I didn't want. Like that wasn't happening yet at all at the time. And even throughout my marriage, it wasn't happening. I was also extremely shut down. Um, yeah, I think as I'm doing deeper work and more layers are just reconnecting to me, to my body, it's happening emergently.
Mm.
It's like happening by itself. I'm not like specifically like, oh, I need to use my voice. Um, but I'm still like heavy in it. So that's why like sitting here is just super weird.
Mm. Yeah, and I get that. I mean, for me, starting my podcast was such a healing moment for me and really helped me start to um, own my voice more and feel more comfortable in it and be more comfortable speaking up.
Mm.
And I think just whether, do one podcast, a million podcasts, I think it's a really powerful practice. And just sharing our stories and speaking openly and freely without feeling like we have to censor ourselves all the
Mhm.
time. Uh, it's really important to have times in our life where we feel able to do that.
Yeah, I have a hard time not doing that. So that can sometimes be on the other end of the spectrum, the imbalance in the throat chakra. In a lot of my studies, it's like people that talk a lot, there's also an imbalance in the same way that people who don't talk at all. So for me, it's like I can't really, I have a hard time like masking or like not saying, and sometimes it's not right right situation. It's like, sometimes the truth has to be cushioned or said in gentle ways. And I'm like, my way of communicating is very direct. It's because I haven't had this like direct experience of working with my voice and finding so it's the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's interesting. And I actually, when you say that, mm, I feel that have, it's not that I feel similarly in the same, in that way, but I think I do have moments where it's challenging for me to mask. So I just don't say anything. So it is kind of like that, like
Yeah.
one or the other.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to know, I mean, we've talked about spirituality and that connects to this, but even more specifically, your connection to your intuition. Do you consider yourself an intuitive person, and how does that show up for you, if so?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought of like it in the framework of intuition, more so like how connected I am to my body
Mm.
and being and my mind being quiet enough to hear what's happening. Because when I get to those places, it's not a matter of intuition. It just everything that's true is right there. But it's like, how do I stay more connected to my body and more connected to like my gut as a generator? It's like, yeah. So I think more from that place, and the horses help me a lot with that because they're doing the mirroring. So if I'm like not being truthful with myself, or if I'm in my mind instead of in my truth, then they'll show that to me also. So they're also constantly tuning me.
Yeah. And I really love how you brought up the being in your body piece and how you've had moments where you felt very disassociated, but in fact, you feel most connected to your intuition, to yourself when you're in your body. I think that's important to emphasize because I've noticed that a lot of people in the spiritual world specifically can feel like to be intuitive, you have to be very out of body. And that's not the truth, in fact. And I found that for myself. I mean, I'm a very earthy person and I need to feel grounded. But we are spirits in a human body, and part of being spiritual is bringing that into the physical form. And so I think that you can't, in order to be as fully intuitive as we all, I think, are, we have to be connected to the physical realm as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Because like when I was completely out of my body and like in different realms and like connecting to angels, I did in a way I wasn't here enough to be in my life, to be fully present in my life. And it's like having the connection to both. And for me it's like, how do I constantly clear this vessel, like as my body, how do I constantly connect to this so that it's strong enough to receive like more information, more wisdom and guidance, and like really listen. Yeah, for me it's my mind also. It's like my mind can get real chatty, and I like to know, like I like to be certain about things, but I like to try and figure things out, and that's not how life is. So I'm like constantly learning to surrender, like not try and figure it out. It's really a challenge for me.
Yeah.
So I can go to it. And it's also my way of avoiding feeling the uncertainty and feeling the void and feeling the grief of being in the void and like not knowing what's going on. It's like, oh, instead of feeling it for real, I'm gonna like go into my mind and try and figure it out. And I'm gonna plan next month and 2 months and 10 years and like 50 years. And then I'm like, whoa, I'm buzzing.
Oh, I relate to that for sure. Yeah. Yes. And I think I mean, stepping outside of that, again, I think it comes back to devotion and simplicity and just commitment time and time again, because it's again, part of being a human is the mind chatter, and really we can get so caught up in that. And for me, coming back to the present moment, coming back to my body, allows me to kind of remind myself, okay, none of that is real. I can like let that all kind of fall through the cracks. Do you feel like you have practices that help you settle all of that mind chatter, or is it?
My meditation practice helps a lot. Being out with the horses helps a lot. Like even just doing the physical work with them, like cleaning poop or bringing them hay or feeding them every morning. There's something in that that's very like ritualistic. yeah, that helps me. And doing nothing, like intentionally doing nothing, not meditating, not listening to music, not petting the dog, literally just doing nothing. It's more challenging than it sounds.
It's like the most challenging thing. I
Yeah.
mean, for me especially, being all the double Virgo that I am, I like to be productive and I like to like be working on things and perfecting things. And so not doing anything, not because it's like the wellness hack or it's like part of my spiritual practice, that's so challenging for me.
Yeah, same. Yeah, so it's a practice.
Yeah, it's absolutely a practice. Where do you feel like if you could make one wish for yourself or your life right now, what would it be?
My mind went to certainty,
Mm.
but that's what my mind went to.
Yeah.
And again, it's like maybe trust, the other side of that, to be like so fully trusting in life and creator and source so that I can relax.
I do sometimes feel like the most spiritual practice is trust.
Yeah.
And that's been my word and guiding light through, I mean, especially since opening this business and just the process of opening it as well. Trust is my word. And it's really the only thing because we'll never have certainty, we'll never have that control, and we can try to pretend that we will or we do, but we won't. And so trust and really trust falling into the trust is what will get us through those really hard moments.
Yeah, it's a hard one to cultivate. Yeah, practice.
I want to hear a little bit more about the work you're doing with the horses now and with Francie and how this retreat came to be and the unfolding of all of that.
Yeah, well, this starts way before this, you know. I think through the process of all the kind of iterations that my work with the horses has been in the spiral of it, like I've taught people how to ride. I've done therapeutic riding, like hippotherapy. Um, and the more spiritual work that's happening now with the horses is, wow, the horses really guided me. Or manifested this for themselves, and I begrudgingly listened. Yeah, trying to feel into which direction to take this. Yeah, the retreats are just something that I has taken many, many years to be able to cultivate, to hold a container like that. Because when you're in it's not like a one-on-one, 1 hour, or even a full day. It's 3 days, 3.5 days where you're peeling back more layers. So the capacity that you have to hold people's processes is a lot. And it's taken me years to get here. The horses have always been ready for this. Like, this is what they always wanted. But my main modality that I like really lean into now is family constellations and field work. And that's like really what I bring in. Except obviously I'm pulling from all the different things I've studied because my one wouldn't let me stop. And I'm constantly learning more and more and more and more. But family constellations is just a whole thing on its own that is like really guiding for me.
Do you want to give a very brief explanation of what that is?
Yeah, so family constellations is a modality that is Bert Hellinger developed, and he was a German psychotherapist that went to South Africa, and he was immersed with the Zulu tribe there, and he saw how their systems worked in harmony. And so when he came back to Europe, he developed family therapy or psychodrama, I guess. I'm not sure if this is all 100% correct, but this is my understanding. And essentially, when you're in a constellation, you're with a group of people who are strangers to you, and you have the identified client, and they come with their problem. And they would choose somebody from the group to represent them. And when that person agrees and comes into the center of the space of the field, they'll start to feel things that are not theirs. They'll start to feel the client's things that are in their body, their thoughts, maybe a story or their vision or just sensations, whatever comes up. And then the systemic part of it is like we're trying to bring your system back into harmony so that your life is in alignment, because we're carrying so many unconscious loyalties to our ancestors and to their stories and to their fears and the things that we hold it out of love, and that affects our lives in so many ways. So they'll sometimes we'll bring in mother and father, and then the client is watching, really is seeing what is happening in their system. And sometimes excluded people from the family come back in, or just tensions or perpetrator energy or victims. And there's so much healing that can happen in a system that happens in the context of people feeling the other people's stuff.
Wow. I mean, well, I haven't experienced family constellations for myself, but I have talked to many people about it, and I've heard how powerful it can be. And I can only imagine, because you're doing it with the horses as well,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can only imagine, what role do the horses play?
They take on the roles of the,
Oh, wow.
yeah, they start to represent things in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I do this with or without additional people. So I'll do this one-on-one just with the client and the horses only.
Wow.
Or I'll do this with a group of people and the horses.
Mm-hmm.
And typically the client will look at the horse, who, to me, and knowing these horses so well, I look at them and they're like, they're not being horses right now. They're being completely not a horse-like. And the client will almost immediately identify, like, oh, that's my brother, or oh my God, that's my grandfather, or and then the horses actually start to behave in certain ways, like between each other, that to me, again, I know them, and it's not horse-like, it's not typical. And like every movement that they make is the field, and there's a lot of healing that happens that they are a part of.
Is there a ritual or a way of opening this space that allows the horses to start to step into that energy, or does it happen kind of naturally?
Yeah, I always take time to open the field intentionally. And I also I tell the horses, okay, this client is coming in, and I let them decide if they're coming or not into the session. So sometimes I'll have 3 or 2, and sometimes I'll have all 5 coming into the session. And then I open the field energetically. So I'm calling in guides and helpers, and yeah, it depends on the field, but I'm spending time really opening and setting the field up. The horses almost immediately drop in. They're like, okay, we're doing this. And they're like, I can see kind of their head comes down and their eyes soften, and they're dropping into the energy.
That's I need to do it. I'm like,
it is magical.
That sounds so magical. Wow. Okay. Living intuitively wild means connecting to your true self and living dedicated to who you are at your core, no matter what. How do you feel like you live intuitively wild?
I feel like we touched on this a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I would go back to through my body and through my practices. Yeah, I think, yeah, like quietening my mind.
Yeah.
Through the devotion to my practices and my body.
Yeah, and I think that horses, for me, when I think of wild, I often think of horses. And I think that also is what's so powerful about horses is that there's such a contrast to when they feel wild and free and when they don't, and they are an animal that have in some ways have been so abused.
and so constrained and
We
constricted.
could talk about that for an hour.
Yeah. And so I think that horses are such a good energetic mirror of what when you feel wild and when you don't, you know, like they really show it when they feel free, when they feel safe, and they really show it when they don't, and you can feel it from their energy as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have so much to say on this, but yeah, my herd, I work so hard to put them in the optimal conditions so that they're not in captivity. In the traditional sense, like horses are in captivity in the same way that sometimes us humans are too, like, in conditioning um, and when it comes to like completing our biological responses and like helping our nervous system be regulated, sometimes we can't like shake it out if we're shocked and we need a moment to, in the way that horses can. And horses can't do that if they're stuck in a stall, if they feel they need to run. So yeah, they really are the picture of wild. And when they can't express that, they shut down. They become depressed too, and they start displaying all different kind of behaviors that then become problems, and then people try and abuse them to fix it. And it's a big conversation, but I do feel that they have such a potent wild streak that is medicine. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that's one reason why I feel so drawn to them is coming back to that wild nature within myself as well. Yeah. Well, I am very excited to explore more horse energy.
Yes.
And just grateful to know you and have you in my life. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I hope it helped deepen your connection to yourself, sparked some insights, and inspired you to live intuitively wild. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would share it with others and leave a rating and review. And please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you. I will see you next time for more magic.